In this 35-year-old patient, the root of the maxillary left central incisor requires removal following crown fracture. The orthopantomograph shows the clinical baseline situation. Apical osteolysis is an indication of a vestibular bony defect. The oral mucosa is locally infiltrated with anesthesia in preparation of surgical root removal and subsequent immediate implantation. The palatal mucosa is also included. To gain access to the alveolar ridge, a ridge incision is made. The papillae are separated proximally, with the incision continuing in the sulci of the adjacent teeth. Finally, the incision is extended vestibularly by vertically divergent relief incisions. The mucoperiosteal flap is elevated with a delicate surgical instrument. The periodontal probe indicates the cemento-enamel junction of the adjacent teeth and the height of the alveolar bone. Only a small defect is visible in the apical area. It's important to remove the root carefully without fracturing the bone wall. To achieve this, the root is diagonally sectioned using a small Lindemann bone-cutting burr. Once this is done, the root can be fractioned longitudinally with a lever arm instrument. The smaller fragment is luxated first by small and careful rotational movements and then removed with pliers. After that, the second root fragment can be extracted from the socket. The granular tissue in the apical region must be carefully removed with curettes. The mesiodistal width of the edentulous area is measured using an appropriate gauge. For widths of 9 mm, a Straumann tapered effect implant with a diameter of 4.8 mm is selected. The first round burr marks the ideal position in the palatal wall of the alveolar socket. The second round burr is used for expanding the mark. Using the 2.2 mm pilot drill, the implant axis is repositioned slightly distally relative to the extraction socket, and at the same time, the preparation is extended further palatally. This procedure ensures good primary stability of the implant, since the implant axis is not identical to the direction of the extraction socket. The 2.8 mm pilot drill extends the implant bed. Spongeous bone shavings are carefully removed from the grooves of the twist drill and collected. The depth of the preparation is checked with the depth gauge. The third round burr gives the bone margin a slight bevel so that the 3.5 mm twist drill can be easily inserted into the implant bed without slipping. Bone preparation requires adequate cooling. Finally, the implant bed is widened with a profile drill in order to properly insert the twist drill with a 4.2 mm diameter. final step in bone preparation is performed using the special profile drill for Straumann taper defect implants with a diameter of 4.8 millimeters. To prepare the conical part of the implant bed, the TE profile drill is held in place relative to the axis by the cylindrical part at its tip. Straumann taper defect implants are self-tapping. The implant is shaped cylindrically in the apical region and is shaped conically in the coronal region in order to minimize the peri-implant bone defect. The implant is inserted with the ratchet and holding key. The implant is guided through the cylindrical part and achieves adequate primary stability due to the threading in this area. The final vertical position of the implant is reached once the implant shoulder is at approximately the same level as the cemento enamel junctions of the adjacent teeth. The end of the holding key is used to remove the transfer part. The implant is now covered using a healing cap with labial bevel. To achieve a stable and aesthetic soft tissue result, the defect must be filled